The age-old question on most people's lips when it comes to getting in shape. Kind of lose body fat and build muscle at the same time. The difficulty with this question is though, it depends who you ask. You ask the local guy down your gym who's banging in sus and deca. He's gonna first tell you that you need to bulk until your thighs chafe and you can barely walk up the stair without consuming any oxygen. You go to your GP or your doctor, they're probably gonna advise you to lose weight first in order to bring down that little thing called your BMI. Now, I'm not trying to say that the traditional bulking and cutting method doesn't work, because it does, but it just has its drawbacks. Firstly, it can have a real negative effect with people's relationship with food, as essentially spend your time yo-yoing between high and low calorie intakes, often aggressively, in order to fluctuate by large quantities in body weight. And during those periods, often people only feel happy or will post a new profile picture when they hit the 10% body fat. Just a quick warning, any hardcore bodybuilders probably turn off now. Number two, if you only focus on weight loss, you're pretty much gonna end up just looking like an empty Asda bag. No shape, very little muscle, very flat, and yes, with some amount of fat loss. Thirdly, who wants to spend their whole life going back and forth between looking like an oversized sugar puff or like someone with an eating disorder who trains, which by the way is a large amount of the fitness space. A lot of these people that you see online with six packs are pretty much just individuals with eating disorders who train. How would I know? Because that used to be me. Body recomposition will suit the majority of people and it will allow you to get or see results a lot quicker whilst still maintaining your relationship with food, which is basically the approach of building muscle whilst losing fat simultaneously, apart from if you're a bodybuilder or you're banging sus and deca. And if you are, you're most probably a bodybuilder anyway. A body recomposition isn't a definitive answer, it's more of a sliding scale. And now this is gonna kind of dictate where the body recomposition is gonna go. Are you more of a Brad Pitt kind of looking guy? If so, well done. Or are you more of a Michelin man? You carry more moves, a bit more timber to lose. This is what's gonna dictate to somewhat degree at the start of the body recomposition, whether it's gonna be more geared towards fat loss or a real focus on building muscle. Calories. This is where most people tend to go wrong because they think that they need to eat their own body weight in squares, bars, and donuts in order to build muscle and put on weight. You don't. If you're starting in that category of where we're looking to build muscle, then putting yourself in just under maintenance is gonna be fine and give you enough energy to be able to build muscle. And if you're needing to lose a bit of timber first, putting yourself in a slight deficit is where we wanna be, but nothing too aggressive. 300 to 500 calorie deficit per week is gonna be absolutely bob on the money in order for us to just lose a bit of that timber while still keeping energy in a good place and still being able to train. As a rule of thumb, 1 gram protein per pound of body weight is pretty sound. No one ever died from having too much protein, and most people on average in the UK tend to underhit their protein intake, so shooting for the stars and landing on the moon is a pretty good start. And don't worry if you've not taken whey protein before, it's not chocolate flavored steroids, it's pretty just pasteurized milk that's gonna help you get enough grams in to grow. And for most people, when they go into cutting period, they're generally quite nervous about losing the amount of muscle that they put on through the winter. And I get it, because you spend months getting absolutely whammed, and now you don't want to go into Shreddy Krueger and end up looking like Pinocchio. And protein, it's almost the most satiating macronutrient as well, so it's going to keep you fuller for longer. There was a study done in 2013 on 88 adults who were overweight on a hypocaloric diet and were set a target of 0.64 grams of protein per pound of body weight, so not even the 1 gram that we're talking about today, was more effective in preserving muscle tissue whilst losing body fat than those who only consumed half the amount of protein. Now, the main driver behind body recomposition is training, duh. Because even if your diet is tighter than my old man's pocket and you're eating 9 million trillion thousand grams of protein per day, you're still not going to grow unless you put the work in the lab. In this phase, progressive overload is your bread and butter. 10 to 20 sets per week per body part would be advisable to get strong and pretty wham. Anything more than this, and whilst in a caloric deficit, is going to leave you feeling run down and even unable to wipe your chocolate starfish. If you're finding training too easy, on 10 to 20 sets per week, you probably aren't taking the working sets close enough to failure. So if that sounds good, here's 4 rules I'm gonna leave you with. Rules for getting wham. Number 1, we've already discussed. 10 to 20 working sets per week. It's gonna be our first golden rule. Stick to this You can't go far wrong. Anything else is what a lot of people in the bro industry like to call junk volume. You're just gonna be sitting there pumping out pointless bench presses and rep ranges and exercises and sets for the sake of it and getting less bang for our buck. Number 2, we're gonna try and hit every body part twice per week. And the reason for that is, imagine I go to the pub, which I very rarely do these days because you guessed it, I'm watching Grand Design. Throw 2 darts. Have I got more chance of hitting a bullseye with 2 or 1? Point proven. The muscle groups can recover from that amount of volume. You can even train sore. DOMs, or being so sore that you can't sit down and take a shit anymore, doesn't mean that you're unable to train the muscle group. You can still train while sore. Number 3, train 2 reps till failure. If you can go more, go more. But not a lot of people will be able to get to this point past being 2 reps till failure, actually being 2 reps till failure. And this is where most people tend to fuck up, because most people train a bit like a pussy and will think that they're actually at failure when they've got a lot more in the tank. Really, when you're in the middle of a bench press or a squat or a deadlift and you feel like, do you know what? I'm slowly coming to the end of my demise and I'm either gonna throw up, shit myself, or pass out. Try and go for an extra rep, or rest, pause, take a quick rest, 2 seconds, go again. Number 4, strength training. Try and avoid doing too much strength training. If the goal is just to look as sexy as possible naked, then strength training or performance stuff isn't gonna be the bread and butter. Sure, throw in your deadlifts, your compounds at the start of exercise, but if you wanna follow a complete strength regime and program, it's not optimal for building muscle tissue. There's a reason why powerlifters don't look like they're gonna walk down the beach sub 10% body fat. I've done a full podcast on this, so I'll leave the link somewhere along here or in the description. This is where bicep curls are the actual shit. Lastly, we've got supplements. So I've split these into 3 categories. We've got essentials, optionals, add-ons. In the essentials, I would always recommend people that they pick up a creatine. The reason why is one of the most researched supplements on the market, especially when we're looking to develop strength, muscle, and power. It's gonna help a lot. In between your rest periods or when you're pushing for that last rep or 2, this is where you're going to notice the energy and the recovery if you've been loaded with creatine. Doing a loading phase is often advised as sort of a 2-week period to let it saturate with inside the muscle cell. You don't have to do that, but it is beneficial. And then taking anywhere from sort of 5 to 10 grams depending on body weight. I tend to go a little bit over that with creatine. There's been some studies that have shown that a higher creatine amount with a higher body weight or more muscle mass is beneficial. Next, coffee. We've got our old caffeine, often sometimes not seen as a supplement because we drink so much of it anyway, but caffeine does definitely help with high intensity exercises and training. Also, caffeine has been shown to be an appetite suppressant, so during a body recomp, I think this is essential. Getting some caffeine in, whether you take it from a coffee or whether you take it from a pre-workout, just make sure that it hasn't got too much of your himbean or any of those beautiful things that used to be in things like Jack 3D or Craze. I remember taking that one time before I went for a meal and I ended up crying in a corner, just wanting my mum. Anyway, optionals. Whey protein. This would almost go into the essentials. However, if you're getting enough protein from your diet, you won't need it, but it's definitely a good thing to add to your toolbox if you're someone who is struggling to hit that gram of protein per pound of lean body weight. I should have added lean body weight. So if you're 300 pounds and you know that you're overweight, don't hit 300 grams of protein. Try and get over your lean body weight. There's calculators online to do that. So protein, again, use MyCoaching. I should have said, what have I done this whole video all the way along? Use the link that's in the description to shop MyCoaching. You will get up to 10 to 20% off using code MyCoachBenji, which will also drop below, depending on what's on the sale, just to grab cheap subs. The other 2, multivit, fish oil. Again, are you gonna notice too much from these? Probably not really. But again, they're a little bit like building the foundation from your day. They're not gonna have a massive knock-on effect to your training, but again, it just allows the foundation for the day for you to be able to go and train off knowing that you've hit your vitamins and minerals. Beta-alanine. This is gonna be the add-on. Again, this is the one that often feels like you've just jumped head first to a bunch of nettles and you feel like itching your face off as beta-alanine. A lot of people tend to use it in pre-workouts because it makes it seem, for a lot of the shit pre-workouts, like it's actually even doing something when it isn't. But beta-alanine is actually a really good protocol for buffering lactate and stopping fatigue and removing or helping shuttle acid within the muscles when it's building up. So it can be used pre or post. I tend to have, I think, around 3 grams per day. I take it after my workout. So it's nice sitting there watching Grand Designs and feeling like my face is gonna fall off.
Hopefully this video has helped you gain some insight into ways you can lose body fat whilst also building muscle, and give you some basic principles and rules to walk away with, because who doesn't like abiding by rules? However, if you still need some more help, you can use the link in the description of this video, which will give you a 7-day free trial to my coaching app, where we do focus on things like body recomposition, losing body fat, building muscle. There is tons of programs for it, and you will also get a personalized calorie and macro plan to suit body recomposition. Lastly, the other thing I've had a lot of questions on is trying to lose body fat whilst also trying to perform for running or hybrid training or high rocks, which is what I've been doing at the moment. I'll even pop up a little composition update of how I look at the moment, since I've been dropping body fat and optimizing performance so that I can run faster, lift heavier, and get the best high rocks time as I can. If you've got any questions about that, drop them below in the description. Or if you'd like to see a full video on how to lose body fat whilst training for performance, drop a thumbs up and put hybrid in the comments. I'll see you next week.